You're listening to a Destiny Park Media podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Akio Slide podcast. You are listening to Mike Jallah, along with
Michael D. Rowland.
Yeah, we're back in the building once again.
D's nuts.
Little 90s slide.
Yep.
For the kids.
We should do one episode where I say I'm Akira and you say and I'm Sly.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
Spoiler alert for future episodes.
Yeah, it's coming. It's not going to come next episode, though. I wouldn't be so predictable. Like some other shows.
Oh, come on now.
Just kidding.
Come on now.
A lot of ragging going on. No, I'm kidding. A little show called Dragon Ball Daima.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it enough.
No. There needs to be more discussion about Goku and his little friends and their little adventures.
Son Goku and his little friends.
Yeah, his little compadres.
And there's news about it because I want to make sure we talk about the news because it was something I actually predicted in past episodes. I said eventually stories are going to come out that are going to explain the production of this show and why certain decisions were made. And
this is something you've been saying.
Yeah, and I sounded like, that guy on the street corner with the Dragon Ball Daima sign. But it worked out. My predictions were truthful and based in reality. Yeah,
I think, when you were saying some of these things, like last episode, you'd already called out some stuff that was going to occur in the, I believe that was the Goma episode 17. And I think you must have like a sense. Give me your perspective, kind of like what you're feeling when you're thinking about like what are the breadcrumbs that are leading you to like some of those ideas that are coming, like, I think something's happening or something's gone on where this is something that they're going to be talking about later.
Well, so I look at, like, when I listen to music or when I watch movies or TV shows, I'm usually thinking of it not just in a like story sense, but I also am always thinking about production in the back of my mind. Right. It's just how my brain's wired. So that's why I love horror and sci-fi from the 60s and 70s, because the production aspect required so much know-how, grit, and like tenacity to make these actual props and models and practical effects. Right. I love that stuff.
Yeah, I love practical effects.
And I always stay tuned to like what the producers and directors say about a project after it's done.
Sure.
Because it's very different than the pre-release stuff, which is all about hype.
Bigging it up.
Although there was no hype for Daima for whatever reason. they didn't do a good job of hyping it.
No.
But so you find out a lot of interesting stuff about a show that in hindsight everyone goes, oh yeah, I noticed that the whole time. But I'm always trying to like think, okay, what could have caused this to happen? And we'll talk about it. There was an article that came out about Dragon Ball Daima this week that really explains a lot of the frustration that us and other fans have had with the show.
Yeah, and I think, and I haven't actually heard this news yet, so Mike's going to be delivering us the news as he does.
Yes, but before we do that, I wanted to mention that I read not an entire series, but every chapter of a series that has come out.
Oh,
so I'm in the know, as the kids say.
Yeah, you're current. You're very current.
There's this manga called Nikaidou Hell Golf, and it is by Fukumoto, the same gentleman who created Kaiji.
Nice.
So it's about a young man named Nikaidou who, at the start of the manga, he is about 25. And he is trying to become a professional golfer.
Oh, cool.
So you're thinking, okay, it's a sports anime.
Yeah.
Or sports manga.
Yeah, sports mangas is cool.
Yeah. Well, he is trying to become one, I said. And the vibe is very much like SpongeBob trying to get his boat license, if you've watched SpongeBob.
Funny. Yeah. Yes.
He cannot pass the exam to become a professional golfer in Japan.
Okay.
And the series takes place when he's 25, and I believe this is all in the first chapter. He actually, over the course of 10 years, he keeps taking the test and keeps failing. And I won't spoil too much. In fact, I won't spoil anything, but I will say that I read a comment. The comment that made me want to read the series was, this is even more depressing than Berserk.
Wow.
And someone said, I know that Guts has it harder than Nikaidou, but I would much rather be Guts than Nikaidou.
Oh, wow.
Because he's down on his luck.
Okay.
Man. He has a really tough go of it in this series. And yet there's just that classic bit of resilience, and you're like, God, he still is trying despite the fact he keeps failing. And he has a benefactor at this country club that, like, basically they pay for his exam because it costs money to take these exams, and that's what keeps people from, like, fully committing to it, is that if they get past the preliminary, they're going to have to pay for the stage 1 and stage 2, and
some money it's a money sink.
But it's a beautiful series, and it's on chapter 39 right now. And a sign of a good series is that I literally was reading it before bed, and I said, I'm going to read this first chapter, and then I got to go to bed. I'm taking a mental health day tomorrow, and I want to get a good amount of sleep. And I read the first chapter, and it ended in such a way that I said, well, I can't leave it on that note. Like, I need to know what happens next. They added a crazy twist at the end. And so I read chapter 2 and chapter 3, and it just kept ending in such a way where I said, well, I got to see what happens next.
Oh, yeah.
But not in, like, a cliffhanger way. It's just like, well, that leaves me a little unsatisfied.
Yeah.
And right when I was starting to feel like, okay, maybe it's time for me to go to bed, I looked up the amount of chapters there were, and I was on chapter 38, and the last one was 39. And I said, okay, perfect.
I guess I'm done.
This is great. So I would recommend the manga to anyone who has a strong stomach for pain and depression. It's really not, like, nihilistic, though, but it does capture the feeling of, like, wow, my life is going by. I started out being this 25-year-old who had a ton of, like, promise, and he's 35. He's 35, yeah, and I'm 35. So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and that feeling of, like, when things used to come easier to you, and then as you're getting older, you're starting to see, like, your face change. And
that's so interesting. They dig into that type of stuff. Okay,
they do. Yeah, it's tough.
I do have two things. So one, the creator, he has a certain proclivities to
design,
down on luck, character style, or I guess character profile, and I think that's really interesting. For one, do you know how old is the creator? Is he not younger, but is he, like?
I believe he is 68.
Okay.
I believe he's 68, maybe 64, somewhere around there.
Yeah, in the 60s. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I would, the manga style looks like Kaiji too? Okay.
Yeah, but it's refined, because he's such an expert in his style. And
he's been tuning it.
He's got the big nose and the shaggy hair, and he has a squiggly mouth that when he's upset or embarrassed, he has the same expression every time. I mean, the utility in character design is that guy uses a lot of the same faces repeatedly. Yeah. But it's just
his aesthetic.
It's his aesthetic, and it the way that he, like, does the backgrounds and uses effects and uses shading and stuff makes each thing feel unique. But it's usually, like, the same expressions for when the character's angry or sad.
Sure.
But it's just the way that the circumstances are presented makes it feel fresh no matter what.
Yeah,
and,
I feel that.
Yeah, and it's a story about being a loser, I guess. And that sounds, like, depressing, and yes, it is kind of depressing, but there are aspects where you can inspire someone by never giving up, and
it's his perseverance that's catching.
Yeah, check it out. It's on Manga Dex. That's a good service.
Nice, Manga Dex.
It's not going to be published in America, most likely.
Yeah,
so I feel
understand
comfortable saying that.
Yeah, for sure. I understand that.
It takes a lot of success to get your manga published in America. And this is very niche. It's a golf manga. And it's also not really about golf. Yeah. And this guy has a proclivity for gambling as well, this manga author.
Yeah.
He likes doing stories about games like Mahjong. And I don't know much about that game, so I haven't read Kaiji 3 yet. The series.
Mahjong started to cross over here like a decade or two, like 2 decades ago or something. When I was I was a teenager, I started hearing, or a little late teen to early 20s, I started hearing more about this Mahjong. People were playing it on their phones and stuff. Like they came out with like these app games and stuff. So it crossed over, but then I think it kind of, I don't know. I don't think it's so much of a thing anymore, like it was before.
From what I've heard, there's a lot of rules, and that intimidates me.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you.
But when I read too many comments about something and get intimidated by that, that's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
Like, I should just read the third Kaiji series and just not be intimidated by the fact that it's about Mahjong. But I just keep seeing all these people say, "Oh, it's hard to follow unless you're an expert in Mahjong."
I understand.
I really don't care about when things get too technical in his series.
Sure.
Because there's always these moments where he gets technical about even rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah, he's really inside baseballing it, or at least his mind, the way it seems like he thinks, is very layered.
You want to know the funny thing is that he acts like he doesn't really have that big of an interest in gambling. Like he says, I'm not a big fan of gambling. And meanwhile, all of his mangas are about gambling. That is so,
I mean, maybe it's some hidden meaning or something behind it. It's really it's similar to Kojima, who was the video game director who created, Metal Gear Solid, he created the Metal Gear franchise, and he's a big pacifist. Yeah. But the character is like a war character, and they talk about nukes and bombs and espionage and shit like this. I'm not really into. I mean, I guess his the way he took a spin on is the character sneaks around and submits people. You don't have to kill anybody, actually. But they give you the option. And so that's his little, him playing with that whole, this is my style, but, this is the game that I'm making, and it still has to be, quote-unquote, fun.
I guess in order to be against something, in order to be a pacifist, you would have to know the realities of war. Right. And so he knows about it.
Yeah.
Perhaps this guy doesn't want to gamble, so this is how he gets that energy out, is by creating characters who do gamble.
Yes.
But he logically goes, I could get really, trapped in this stuff.
And he feeds in, those fears get fed into the series because it's all that baggage behind it, oh man, what if this happened and then I spiraled, and then he puts that into the work.
Yeah, if I were a manga artist, I would probably do stuff like that.
That'd be interesting, actually.
Write about stuff that I would want to do in my daily life, but I don't, due to being risk averse. Yeah,
and then use all the preconceived thoughts and ideas about that thing, and then feed it into the work, basically. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, I do see the appeal of writing about dark stuff, and I've been watching cam footage, body cam cop footage.
Oh,
recently,
sure.
And seeing these pretty dark stories, and it's weird. It makes me appreciate my life so much more,
which is nice.
Yeah, and there's a time when you need to shut it off, and I do eventually reach that time and go, okay, it's no longer serving me, but to occasionally be reminded of the gifts that you have in your life, and you're lucky you don't live like this.
Yeah. It's extremes, basically.
Yeah, I don't listen to true crime podcasts or watch those documentaries anymore. I can't really compartmentalize and include that in my brain anymore.
Oh, sure.
But watching,
you gave it mind share.
Yeah, but I'm watching the occasional YouTube documentary about it where it's 20 minutes or so. It's okay, I guess I can watch this until it's too much. But anywho, speaking of too much, let's talk about Son Goku and his little friends in the demon realm.
Demon Realm.
Dragon Ball Demon.
Yeah.
What if they name the show Dragon Ball Demon?
That's actually a cool name.
Well, Daima, is basically part of the word devil, I think, or magic. No, it's part of the word. Well, Piccolo Daimao was his name in Japan.
Interesting. So, okay.
So it's demon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're working this out live.
Yeah.
There's 2 brain cells between us.
Japanese translation. Daima means.
Hi, Google. Hello.
No more Google.
Okay.
Chat GPT.
I hate Chat G. Ugh, I can't say it.
I know.
It's Chat G
P T. Screen. GT. Yeah, exactly.
GT. There you go. So, Dragon Ball Daima is a long-running series. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to get it.
Start from the beginning.
So, Son Goku, based on the character Sun Wukong.
Yes.
From Journey to the West.
The Chinese folklore, if you will.
Yes, I will. So this has been running since October 2024.
Yeah.
We've been here for a while. We've talked about it a bit on the pod.
Yeah, a little bit.
And we've had some concerns about how the story is being told. Mm-hmm. And I said, something's going to come out eventually that will explain why certain decisions were made in terms of the pacing. Something happened behind the scenes. You can always tell a troubled production. It's easier when it's the animation. You can easily tell when there's troubled, things with the studio and the budget and the amount of people, the amount of staff they have on the project.
Sure.
You can't hide that.
You're
eventually it'll come out.
Right.
But this show, it looked beautiful, and it still does. Every episode looks great. It's the best looking Dragon Ball series by far. Mm-hmm. So we thought, they cooked. They did. Super. They did everything.
No pun.
Yeah, I know. Should I say something?
Super.
So it really seemed like everything was ready to go. And I remember the wisdom amongst the fan base was this is the first Dragon Ball series that they were able to write the entirety of before animating a single frame.
Sure.
This is going to have better writing than most Dragon Ball series.
Because that was the time.
Yeah. Well, I got bad news for you. An article came out, which was an interview with the producer of a lot of the modern Dragon Ball stuff, Iyoku. Mm-hmm. Akio Iyoku is his name. Cool name.
Yeah, and very cool.
There's a lot of behind-the-scenes dealings with him where he has a company called Capsule Corp, and he's basically fighting with Shueisha and Toei about ownership of Dragon Ball. He wants to have ownership of anime and video games, and then the Shueisha would have ownership of manga and I think print. So
interesting. So he named his company after the Capsule Corp in the show.
Which is the company that Bulma's father started.
Right.
And it has all the capsules. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have capsules.
Nice.
If you're not a Dragon Ball fan, we're going to try to keep this.
Sorry, I was a little bit nerdy inside.
No, it's really good marketing because a Dragon Ball fan will remember Capsule Corp.
Yeah.
So he's already got one up on Shueisha.
He's smart.
So in this interview, it was revealed, and not in like a negative way, but it was revealed that they actually started production and actually started animating before they had a story fully finished.
Okay.
So when you see all the stop and go that this series does, it becomes clear that they were flying by the seat of their pants for a lot of this stuff. Like that middle run, I think, is where
things start to...
They fell apart storyline-wise.
Yeah.
And it's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying that they...
it's unfortunate.
They did this because they had the opportunity to do, like, not that.
Yeah, because my thing is, like, what was the need for the rush?
To get it out for the 40th anniversary. That must be it. Yeah,
you could start it and then wait. I know that's a weird that I know that's not ideal. You start a series and then you're like, hold on, guys, we got to work on the story, but we'll give you the first 5 episodes. I know that
you can't really do that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So I guess 40th anniversary. I mean, I understand, but
they started this like 3 years ago. That's the thing,
right?
Maybe even more.
Time.
So. Yeah, it's just like, so basically they likened it to when Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball were animating the show while the manga was coming out every week. That's literally how it felt to them. So it's pretty much the same issue that all modern Dragon Ball anime has had, or not modern, just all Dragon Ball anime, which is they didn't like they ran out of story while the show was being worked on. And they had to, in this case, they didn't have filler because there was no source material. So
they're just making stuff.
They're just making stuff. So that's why episodes would feel like filler. But then you go, well, there's no source material. So technically it's not filler. This is all like
part of the story,
but it's just not like helping move the plot along, and it's not really interesting. And
if you don't have an end goal, how would you know where to go? Yeah,
exactly. So that's why the first episode till now, it feels like a totally different show now. And
it does. The energy of the show that, it's so funny. You can listen to our pods when we first discovered the show. And like the start of it, we went to the movie premiere of the first 3.
Yeah.
And you can hear that energy of like, something's happening. And then even in some of our earlier episodes after that, when we move into, that first 1 through 8, even 1 through 10, but that 1 through 8 really, I think is really where it's tight right there.
Yeah.
There was a clear vision for that. And then now it's kind of just a lot of characters that, together, but what do they do? We don't know because we're not exactly sure where we're going with it. So you saying that, I had this theory that the show was like kind of made, or it seemed like it was probably made for, kids, or it was targeted more towards kids versus like your, the old fans of, 30 years ago or 20 some years ago or whatever the case. Is that a cover for just not having a good story?
It could be, because this is from the producer, so he could be saying that. So the second part of the interview is that he revealed that this was inspired by Dragon Ball GT, which is like, yeah, you can tell. But it was meant to be for children, and then also the parents who are in their mid-30s now who watched Dragon Ball GT when they were their kids' age. So it's meant to be for kids and for people around our age.
Right.
In your case, you have a child. In my case, I have a dog.
Right. Who can watch.
But she doesn't understand. I try to explain, and she goes, row, row. I say, God damn it.
You never have any good dad.
Who's that? I say, it's Goku. God damn it.
I've said that already.
I've said this so many times. And then once all these other characters got added, she ran away.
That's fair.
All jokes aside, though, your comment about maybe it's a cover, I don't think it's a cover. I think that them being turned into kids was intentional to make the kids connect with them more, because kids are somehow not able to connect with adult characters. Ultimately, you brought this up. You had your daughter watch some of this just to see what happened.
Yeah.
And Dragon Ball is such a long-running story that the idea of putting a recap at the beginning is nice and cute, but it still doesn't catch a child up to speed if they're watching this, and this is like continuing from decades of story. Yeah,
there's not a lot of context for all the characters that are involved in the show. No. I think, again, if you refine what you have here, there's a gem in here. If you make the show only with Goku, the new people that he found in the demon realm, and maybe just one character from the past, just one, then you can really tightly encapsulate a new story for somebody young to join the journey. But then when you start throwing in all these people that from the past, and we're not sure who, from a younger person perspective, they don't know who these people are per se, because there's no time to explain who they are or for them to even care who they are, for a kid to even care who they are anyway. And you take them on this journey, and you're kind of jumping around, and there's no clear path, which I think is kind of really the more adult thinking part of me that's speaking with saying, like, there's no clear path. I don't think a kid, I guess, truthfully, I don't think a kid cares about a clear path. A lot of kid shows are really episodes are really almost encompassed within themselves as a standalone. And some kids shows have gone beyond that, and everything is associated with this world. But it takes a long time to do that. And the kid has to see a lot of repetition of that happening, like, oh, that thing happened before in the last thing, for them to realize that it's all one thing. This is too short for you to try to do something in that vein. So if you made a really tight story with just Goku, one older person, if you want to, like, you know, have some nostalgia there. But honestly, for us 30-year-olds, I don't to me, I don't really need anybody from the past per se to, like, make this fun new adventure that is going on in the Demon Realm possible.
Yeah.
Like, you having Vegeta and Piccolo there, or even
Kaioshin?
Yeah, Kaioshin, like, there. He's a guide, so it's cool. But it's not, I don't need them.
I'm kind of captivated by, or I was captivated by Kaioshin's story. Actually.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, because he is kind of heavily involved within the character, so he does need to be there.
And when I heard this show announced that it was going to be Goku and Kaioshin going on a spaceship and, like, going to the Demon Realm together, I was like, yawn. I don't care about Supreme Kai.
Thank you.
I really didn't care. And then they did a good job explaining his backstory. His siblings are the villains. And
yeah.
He had a reason to come along, and also, like, to learn about Glins and what they are was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I wound up coming around on it, and this thing that I thought I wanted, Piccolo and Vegeta to come there, like, I wound up souring on that. And it's like you said, you know, they could have done a tight story where it was Goku and Supreme Kai, and the characters get to know Goku and find out more about him, which would then lead to the new viewers learning more about Goku and saying, I gotta watch Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z.
Yep.
They might find out how Goku has saved the world multiple times. These people have no idea what Goku's done at all. They just know he's strong.
But Mike, the first episode is a whole recap of what he did do. It's not enough.
No, well, I'm saying Pansy and Glorio, like, don't really know Goku's character much at all.
That too, but
they don't
it's cool to discover him.
Yeah, and they could have done that. They could have had, like, you know, conversations on the ship. That's the thing, like, this is for kids, but a lot of it is too boring for kids, I think. And I'm sorry to say it. And it's like, I thought it was like a measured and kind of adult way of telling the story, that there was a lot of, like, discussions and lore, but kids are going to get bored for a lot of this stuff. And the fact that not much happens in each individual episode can be tough.
Right.
It can be slow.
Yeah. But, it's a half step.
Yeah. And I'm not a fan of Dragon Ball GT. So the references to Dragon Ball GT, it's like, they don't really do much for me. I'm
so curious why they thought GT would be a good, I think the adventures aspects of GT, and I honestly haven't seen a ton of GT because it just, you know, in the fan base it wasn't received well.
Yeah.
And that kind of shooed me away from it. And him being like going back to, like, kid size again and stuff like that, I don't know, I just wasn't into that idea. I just seen Goku, like, do so many immense things as an adult, and him having a child, and that child growing up and being his own, like, you know, becoming his own man, to then go back to him being small. It's a weird choice.
Yeah.
And, but for Daima, I was ready to accept it, just because, since I hadn't really dug into GT, I was like, let me just see, like, what can this do? Like, what can the show do?
Yeah.
That I'm missing. And it was fun to see him young, or I guess look young, or, you know, kind of be young in a way too. But if they don't have much more than that, you know, it was kind of clear that this adventure, where was the adventure leading us to? You know, we're here in episode 18, which is the awakening. We've been battling with Goma for 2 episodes? You know, I would say like 2 episodes.
Well, we've been in the 3rd Demon Realm for 4 episodes now.
Yeah.
The Goma battle started last week, halfway through that episode. So
right.
It's only been a half episode of fighting him.
Yeah, and so in between that whole time, there hasn't really been a lot of explanation. Mm-hmm. It's just been a lot of things happening.
Yeah, well, and I guess so. You don't need to like explain and have all the characters stop and
yes,
talk about
the
it,
old way,
but it hasn't been conveyed either. Like the closest thing is that we saw his soldiers kind of bullying a town of people in the third demon realm and through the third demon world.
Yeah,
and they were getting their life force drained from them as a tax, and that was bad. But that was probably the only thing that we've seen linked to Goma that was like negative. Like
right. Otherwise, Goma's kind of just been watching a TV screen and complaining about the adventures and
like Saturday morning villain style, as we've discussed.
Yeah,
like, it's been passive.
Yeah, very passive. He never really felt like a big bad to me.
That's the thing. They conveyed him as a joke the entire series. Then he found the third eye, and now he is the final villain. But we also don't really know why. Like, they avoided him. They said he was powerful, but then he was scared of them. It just doesn't... That's the thing that's frustrating about this show, is that a lot of it just did not make sense and continues to not make sense.
Yeah.
But for episode 18, one of my predictions last week was that... Spoilers. If anyone cares. Spoilers. My prediction was that Goku would unlock Super Saiyan 4 from Dragon Ball GT.
Yep.
And it would be either... I had two options. One, it would be related to Magellite or whatever.
It's basically the moonlight.
Yeah, but the Demon World moonlight type of thing.
Right.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I thought it would be related to just like demon magic, like being in proximity to... the first Demon World probably has more magic around and like dark energy and fighting the third eye.
Sure.
What I was not prepared for, watching this live, it was probably the worst experience I've had watching Dragon Ball Daima so far. Ooh. I'm not even kidding. I hated it. Yeah. I hated the episode live. Like I was depressed after watching it. I'm really mad. Honestly.
We texted. We didn't really text, but you know, he's like, I'm watching the episode, and then after he's like, I watched it. And I'm like, say no more.
Well, what I said to you was I was too creative.
Yes. That was the words that were used. Yeah. The few words that were used,
because I thought that there would be some form of like twist. Like, how did Goku get this new form? Oh, it's related to the Demon World.
I had a stupid one that was like, oh, maybe it'll be related to the way that it happened in Super, since he's fighting like a fake Jiren.
Yeah.
And he would like fall into like, you know, a pit of, you know, energy or something like that. Or like he would be like pushed past his brink.
A limit breaker.
Thank you. A limit breaker.
Yeah.
That's my other issue with this episode, is that like, there's still no tension.
There's fake tension.
Yeah, it's kid tension.
Yeah. And then Tension Han pops up. Hey guys, what you talking about me? No, you're not relevant.
No, not you.
So Goku gets his potential unlocked, you could say, because it's an Namekian thing to unlock potential.
Yeah.
But Neva, in the middle of Goku fighting Goma, and by the way, the bout with like Super Saiyan 3 Goku and Goma, and then Super Saiyan 3 Majin Du, where Majin Du becomes a Goku fanboy, is really good. I actually think that's really fun.
It is funny.
Yeah.
So I liked it and didn't like it because I thought it was funny, but it took away from the seriousness of him turning to Super Saiyan 3. But this is my adult brain talking. I'm like, well, we're getting down to business. And then you got Majin Du just like, monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
And making his head look like he has spikes as well. And I'm like, that's funny.
Yeah.
But we're trying to get to business right now.
We're in the middle of something.
Yeah, we're in the middle of something, dude. So you can...
And Majin Buu throws him a giant cookie, and he literally is passed out, and the cookie hits him right in the lip. Come on, that's funny stuff.
Cookie!
Yeah.
But
he becomes the cookie monster in a way.
I literally had that thought just now.
Yeah, when you yelled cookie.
Yeah, exactly.
But he becomes a hyperactive toddler, and it actually works, and he does start kicking Goma's ass for a bit. But then he has a sugar crash, And I don't know. I like Majin Do, the fact that he is monkey see, monkey do, and he like sees people shooting ki and then goes, oh, I guess I can do that.
I can do that too.
Yeah, and so he has a lot of potential. He's a cool magic character. And let's do the positives of this episode.
Yeah.
I like the fact that characters were on the sideline for a bit watching Goku with Super Saiyan 3, but they also would jump into the battle again. Like they would say, let's help him out. Even though Goku was stronger than Goma, they didn't do the Dragon Ball thing where they're all just standing there going,
bated breaths.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Dragon Ball Z, watching that back, I can't imagine 291 episodes, and most of it is people going, and with that's the dub though.
That's definitely the dub.
The Japanese version, they don't make as many noises.
Guttural sounds. Yeah. But, so I liked that. Yeah. I kind of liked the Majin Do thing. I know that you said it's time to get serious, but I thought it was classic Toriyama humor, but also it was like a magic character, and they tend to be kind of crazy with their hacks and their abilities. Yeah. I think it was still fun.
It was still fun because it did like impact the battle, and Goku teamed up with him, and they did some insane combos. Like, Do created a giant fist that grabbed Goma, and Goku hits Goma, and then because he was still wrapped up in Do's fist, it was like, he could then do combos on him, and
he was sprung back.
And so it was very creative. And you and I both talked. We watched the episode earlier, and the animation and direction of the show continues to be beautiful.
Yeah.
There's amazing color choices where Goma's red and Goku's blue, and
or vice versa. Like it was the show's visuals are still, honestly, man, show visually I think is still top notch. I don't know if it's looked better than this before.
I honestly thought it would melt at some point in this finale, just because there was that Vegeta episode where he turned Super Saiyan 3, and it kind of looked like things were getting a bit scant in terms of talent. And,
sure.
I don't want to say talent. There's obviously talented people on that episode, but they didn't
go all out.
Didn't go all out, and so that seemed like a huge moment. But you can see that they were saving. There were certain episodes that were not as high priority, and the finale they're trying to go movie level. Yeah,
and then they have a bag of tricks, and I think they were saving some of them for this battle.
Yep.
It still remains to be seen if anything will beat. Am I building up episode 8, the Tamagami?
No. I think that fight is phenomenal. I think that's fantastic.
I'll have to rewatch it and really just.
I don't think you're building it up at all. Okay. Nothing will top it in this show. I'm pretty certain, and that's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't really even have to. We kind of keep hinging on the Tamagami episode where he's fighting the Tamagami 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah, the third one.
With the power pole. I mean, when Goku uses the power pole in this show, it immediately becomes better.
Yeah.
It's just such a cool, device to add choreography and martial arts to.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, this episode, there's no, martial arts, it's all
punching.
It's all Dragon Ball Z style fighting, which can be cool, but I do think that the choreography for certain scenes is really not that good. It's just Goku spamming ki. And they're running out of interesting ways to frame a child fighting a giant
person. Yeah.
And thank goodness it looks like at the end of this episode, fingers crossed, they're going to be adults next week, most likely. I don't know what else Gloria would wish for. We finally had the thread of Glorio working with Arensu come back.
Oh, sure.
In the middle of the battle, she calls him like a weirdo.
On the phone, hello, while they're fighting,
I was like,
by the
who's
way.
calling him? And then I literally didn't know who was calling him. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess she's a villain again.
Right.
Here we go. She's going to become Supreme Demon King with magic stronger than Goma, and she'll defeat him. And that's cool, I guess.
Do it, Glorio.
And turns out Glorio was taught Namekian, or he learned Namekian, rather.
Sure.
So when, a few weeks back, they did set this up kind of, what's his name? Neva said, you should bring me because I speak Namekian, and you need to speak Namekian to accomplish the wish. None of you know it, right? He said. And they did, I believe they showed Glorio kind of looking like, Because he's like, if I say I know it, they're going to be like, wait, why would you? Why would you know it? You're not a Namekian. And Piccolo would say, that's racist, man.
You're racist.
That's our language, bro.
Yeah, what are you doing, bro? By the way, I think you probably already mentioned this before. So Piccolo he's so removed from it, he doesn't know Namekian.
Yeah, that was a weird plot hole.
I don't like that.
Yeah, he says, I don't know Namekian. Why? You have fused with Kami and Nail. And also, you spoke Namekian in Dragon Ball.
Right, what are we talking about?
We don't know. He's been on Earth for 20-something years.
It's all out the window, which I understand.
He hasn't spoken his native tongue in a long time.
Sure.
They should have had him try and then put subtitles where it was like he was butchering it.
That would be really funny.
That's Toriyama.
And that would have thank you. That would have been very Toriyama and you can pull a few words out, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe even understand it to a certain extent. I don't think it would just be completely disappeared, but anyway.
We have to get to the monkey in the room, which is Son Goku. He has been bested by Goma. He's Super Saiyan 3, and I liked that it wasn't it did nothing. The form did help for a while, and he was kicking Goma's ass for a bit.
Right.
That's not like Dragon Ball. Usually, they would have him turn Super Saiyan 3, and then it still did nothing. But at least there was a bit of back and forth.
Yeah.
And so he's on the ground, weak, pathetic.
After a punch, a kick, and a punch.
He was disrespected.
Yes.
I love when Goma disrespects Goku. I do like that in this show. Or I should say in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
So Goma is delivering a finishing giant fireball, and things look bad. And I remember thinking, wow, how are they going to get him out of this? Is he about to look in the sky and see the Magilight? And I was like, Michael, your prediction's coming true. And
Here it is, guys.
And then a decrepit old Namekian literally walks into frame, and I remember my heart just sinking. I said, what is this old guy doing? And he holds out his hand. He doesn't even say anything.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything.
He's just like, let me see what happens if I do this. So he holds out his hand, and magic spews. And there is a beautifully animated sequence where you can see something running through Goku's veins.
Yeah.
And interacting with his DNA.
Right.
It's kind of non-magical in a way.
Right. Scientific.
And a magical girl transformation. It happens, and Goku becomes Super Saiyan 4. Or at least they didn't name it yet. But
right. It has not been named, but obviously this is a tip-off to
the GT fuckers.
Yeah, the GT fanboy. I assume they must have a fan base.
They do. It's a vocal minority. Just like how there's Star Wars prequel fans who make it their whole personality and defend it constantly. And there's GT fans out there who hate Daima. I still prefer Daima after all is said and done, and I've seen most of GT.
Yeah.
But yeah, he is a slightly revised Super Saiyan 4. He's not an adult. He's still a kid.
Yep, kid body.
He has red hair instead of black hair, which is fine because having red fur but then black hair doesn't really. It's not how fur works.
Yes, the design team did a great job with his look and making it cohesive and fit with the monkey narrative. Or not narrative, the monkey traits. So it's he's got, like you said, with the hair color is red, makes sense because his fur on his body is red.
He's got some track pants almost.
Yeah, something. Track pants. Got some track pants. He's got the giant forearms like a gorilla would or a monkey would. Yeah,
I love it. I actually do love the design. I hated it the first day because it was so...
You didn't want that.
It was Super Saiyan 4, and yet it had new things going on.
Yeah.
And it was kind of quirky, and it didn't look like Goku to me at first, but...
It's because the shrunkenness of it is just kind of miniaturizes everything, and it makes it look a little funny.
Well, what I like when Dragon Ball has transformations is when they actually do have physical changes, not just the hair changing color.
Yes.
So
that's always great.
I wound up coming around to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the adult side of my brain is mad because there was no build up to it. It doesn't pay off anything from the first 17 episodes.
And it was never hinted.
If it did pay off to something, or pay off of something, this would be an awesome moment.
Right.
And so that's where I get mad about things it isn't instead of focusing on what it is.
Now, the child would say, Yo, that's so cool. He's a monkey. Look at him.
Yeah, and at one point in the episode, I had to make sure to bring it up. Goma does put Goku in a super monkey ball. Thank you. And I did like that he just reversed his transformations
while he's in the ball. Yeah.
It was kind of a cool thing.
I'm going to strip you of all your coolness.
And that is what magic could do. So they're doing some magic stuff here or there. Not as much as they promised, but it's okay.
Right.
It's okay. And we don't know what Goma was capable of before, so we have no measuring stick and this.
That's the other thing is this eye is all powerful, withstands Goku and all of his friends' attacks. It becomes this Superman type shit where it's where's the limit? Yeah,
there is no limit. I think there is no limit.
Yeah.
There's going to be something where Goma can't withstand it anymore. Because the eye is starting to fight for him, essentially.
Yeah, because he's gassed out, but the eye just keeps boosting him with more power. And
so cheap.
Yeah, more anger. It's
he's a video game boss.
Yeah. He's a traditional video game boss.
And that's a lot of this show when it was good. And when I liked it, it felt like an RPG, and they were on a journey to get to the final boss.
Right.
And, this is a video game.
Yeah.
Imagine this is more like a collection of cutscenes from a video game, and you'll have a better time.
Yeah, it's if this is... Now, if they encompass this into some PS5 game where you're Goma turns into this, and then, you get past the 3 Tamagamis, and you beat them, and then... There's a special wish that happens at the end, and then, that whole thing, it fits for something like that, but...
It makes me sad because for the 3rd Tamagami fight, one of the things I praised it for was that the show was doing a good job of, power scaling where you knew where each character kind of stood.
Yeah.
You knew that he beat Deborah, so Goku turning to Super Saiyan 2 after the Majin Buu fight, it made sense. But over time, none of the power... scaling has made any sense. And I'm not a power scaler.
No,
but
me neither.
In a dramatic story, you do need to know where people stand.
Especially if you're resting on that.
And why they can't do certain things. Why hasn't Vegeta turned Super Saiyan 3 in this fight? We know he can do it. We just saw that.
Right.
Also, the fact that when they got to the second demon world, why didn't they have them go to the giant planet first? Instead of... Because doing it after getting the Dragon Ball and fighting the Tamagami was a recipe for disaster,
Right.
They should have had that happen first, so you go, wow, this second demon world is crazy.
Yeah, it's huge.
And it's a fun little bit of character moments for everybody. Anyway.
But yeah.
So Super Saiyan 4 is, or whatever this is going to be named. My hope is that it is not Super Saiyan 4 in this show, and basically it's there will be a cool... way that it ties the show together, this is demonic magic, and maybe someday you can come back here and I'll train you to access it yourself.
Yeah.
And then I have this hope that maybe the Dragon Balls can only be used once every 7 years.
Sure.
So where we are in Dragon Ball Super right now is about 7 years from this point, potentially.
Yeah.
And they could be hey, the Dragon Balls are ready and let's go back to the Demon Realm. I don't know.
Right.
I'd like for this to end in a way where it opens up to Super and coming back to this world. Because I do like the Demon World, actually. And
yeah, but there's some fun stuff in here for sure.
And the way that this form looks like Super Saiyan God, it could tie into that form and potentially be a precursor to it.
Yeah, he had red eyes, right?
He had red hair in Super Saiyan God. Red hair.
I'm sorry, this monkey boy, was his eyes red in it? I can't remember.
Yeah. It's red.
Okay.
His eyes are red.
Stuff, yeah.
And his hair is red. And
yeah.
So I'm hopeful that there could be something where they do try to tie everything together, even if it's late in the game. I know that it's not going to be as good as it would have been if it was written better.
Or longer, honestly. If you stretch it out. That's my other thing is you didn't have to do 20.
I know, but the show wouldn't look as good if it was stretched out.
That's true.
That's the issue.
They gotta take the lumps where you can.
Yeah. I ultimately, like I said, when a show has a flawed production or what's the word, troubled production,
sure,
you'll always find out.
Yeah,
it's not like you can hide it being disorganized and dysfunctional.
Right.
So we were tricked by the awesome animation for the first little while, but it did fall apart. It just fell apart in a story way, which is actually, I don't want to say worse than the animation falling apart, but it's tantamount to it, or it hurts the show in a big way.
Yeah, especially from like your older viewership. We've been watching not only Dragon Ball, but other things where the storylines are super tight and interesting, and I don't think you can rest on just being. Well, actually, you can. You've been, Dragon Ball itself is its own thing. It's its own universe. It's its own product. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And you can get by without having to be the most poetic when it comes to storytelling by living in nostalgia.
We don't need much to be happy with Dragon Ball.
That too. It's like that's
the thing that I've learned from how we were the first 10 episodes or so, or 12. Mm-hmm. I mark it off at 12 just because I still felt a lot of hope and promise after that Dragon Ball, or after that Vegeta Super Saiyan 3 episode.
Sure.
We don't need much, and we don't expect, like you said, poetry or deep stuff, but it doesn't need to be super deep, and the way Toriyama was as a writer, rest in peace, he could pull out incredible stuff with very bare bones.
He's done it.
Bare bones character stuff. Where you only get to know these characters a little bit. You don't really see them have downtime too much.
Right.
The relationships they have with each other are more like implied with like deep looks at each other, or like the way that they team up together, or the way that like a good guy or a bad guy becomes good.
Right. Right.
And this show doesn't really accomplish even the Toriyama style of character development. And, anyway,
I mean, imagine in the past, Vegeta was not given the runway to change from what he was to what he is. He was only given a few episodes to change from being this evil doer to then being cool with Goku. How would you look at that storytelling? It'd be weird. You'd be like, why is all of a sudden like they're like chummy? He was here to kill people.
Yeah, but if they had released Dragon Ball in, I believe it's called Cores, where they released like 26 episodes at a time.
Yes, exactly.
Where they had the Saiyan saga all mapped out, and they released that for a season.
Yep.
And let it cook just like Daima had got to cook with the animation.
Absolutely.
It would be one of the best shows ever.
Because visually it's just, I think it's still... by the way, this show is it digitally drawn?
Yeah. And it was going to be a web anime, so it was not meant to air on TV. Mm-hmm. And then because of Toriyama's passing, they said, we got to put this on TV.
Yeah.
And
40th anniversary, like you said.
And that led to more strict time limits and more strict, when you have something on TV, you got to make sure that it reaches 22 minutes or whatever. So
sure.
They had to expand some episodes artificially, so they would add that intro to some episodes and not others. Then some would have 2 eye catches, some would have none.
Right.
And yeah, I look forward to hearing more about the production side of this show, because you can just tell it did not go the way they thought it would. And
I think there's a gem in here.
Yeah, there was a gem, and I had fun with this episode, like in terms of the animation, and there's fun stuff where I smile and laugh at it. It's not terrible. We make it sound so bad sometimes, but
no, I know, and that's not even my style to be dogging stuff. Yeah. But it's just that I'm not asking for a lot.
Neither am I.
just put the pieces together for me.
Yeah.
You're not doing that. What you're doing is you're giving me a puzzle piece here that looks nice, and then you're throwing me another puzzle piece, and I'm like, oh, these are great puzzle pieces, but they actually don't connect to each other. And you're like, it's cool, just look at the pieces.
And maybe it's because of how things are going in 2025. Where things like this matter to us more because the real world is so fucked up right now.
Yeah, or just we've been doing a lot of dissection of what's actually going on with things and people and music and intentions and intentionality that I'm not so here for just looking at something shiny.
Yeah.
And being, I can be satisfied on a very surface level, but I've never really been a surface level enjoyer of art that way.
Yeah.
That's just not my style.
Same here. And I'm grateful that we've got to spend some time with these characters, and grateful for the new pieces of animation that are going to be like clips I rewatch on YouTube a million times.
Yeah.
Toriyama's gone. We're never going to get another series where he's as involved as this one.
That's true.
In 2 weeks, the show is over, and it may be a long time before we get animated Dragon Ball again.
Sure.
So I want to keep that in mind. That
savor.
Yeah, there's going to be fun stuff in the next 2 episodes. Like I said, I can't imagine Glorio wishing for anything other than Goku and his friends to be adults.
Right.
If I'm surprised, then so be it, and the whole show will be Goku and his friends as kids. But
which is fine.
It is fine. I don't care either. But if they wouldn't put him as an adult in the opening if that doesn't happen like at all, I don't think. But you never know. Anime openings are fun.
They are very fun.
Fun fact is that the opening for the show is one of the most rushed parts of its like animation. They made it like a few months before the show was to premiere.
Oh, interesting.
So
does it feel rushed to you looking at it?
No, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I didn't think that at all. I thought it looked great, and especially like when Goku's like big and like circling around.
That's one of my favorite shots.
Yeah, it looks great.
And when he's on the Kinto-un.
Yeah.
By the way, biggest disappointment of the show, Goku never used Kinto-un.
Yo. The cloud
flying Nimbus.
Yeah.
He never used it. They put it in the opening. They put it in promotional materials, some of them, I think. But they brought back the power pole, thank God.
Yeah.
But to have him not use Kinto-un, like they even brought it up. They had Korin say, "You can get the flying Nimbus," and he's like, "No, I'll just fly." And it's like,
why,
dude?
By the way, that's such a what's the word? That's such a catfish where it's just like, we can get the old people with the Nimbus cloud, put it out there. It's like, yep.
God, what if he had brought that to the demon realm? And that would be like, if the ship broke down, he'd be like, "Hey guys, I can carry you."
People just start falling through the cloud because they're just not as
pure of heart. Anyway, so next week potentially we'll have more Sakuga. That's amazing animation. We'll have more awesome fights and potentially adults, and I don't have any expectations.
Yeah, I'm just kind of watching as we go through. I'm not. I think all that stuff was in the intro of the show for me, and then kind of seeing what they were going to do with it.
It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
The optimism. I don't regret the optimism I had for the show.
I love that. I think it's great.
Yeah.
And you give more spark to like what could be, which I love.
Yeah. And there's always that part of me that goes, "Oh, I shouldn't have been optimistic. Oh, I shouldn't have hoped for the best." But it's not wasted energy.
No.
I'm glad I didn't spend the whole time being negative.
See, that would be a disservice, because then you can't really sit and enjoy it. Or at least you can't sit and take it in.
I've done that for certain records by bands and certain seasons of TV shows, and then I would watch it like years later and go, this is good.
Yeah.
This is fun. It may not have been what I wanted at the time,
right?
But it was fun, and so that's why I'm really a lot more open minded now, and I try to take things as they are and not worry about if they are what I wanted them to be.
Right.
That's why I gave the show such a chance, because I didn't want Goku to be a little kid. I never wanted him to be a little kid. He's a man. He has kids. He's grown up. He's grown up. He's a goofball, but he's grown up.
Yeah.
I've never liked that anime trope of man becomes child again, or woman becomes child again.
Yeah, the shrunken stuff is you can skip that.
You can miss me. Good job. That's good. I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
No, that's good. Mike is very in. He's in the know.
You have no idea.
This man is in.
I stay up to touch.
Yeah,
out to touch. That's not a phrase. Not a phrase at all. I just totally lost my cred.
No, now you're going above and beyond.
Streets ahead.
Yeah, there you go. Streets ahead indeed.
All right.
Yeah, no, I think that was good. I'm gonna stop.
Oh, we haven't done an actual sign off though.
Oh, that's right.
We just gonna.
I'm like, that's good. That was good.
The episode is gonna end with us going, "I think we can get lunch." And just fade out.
We should play us out with some music.
So we have the Dragon Ball Daima.
Yeah, Daima on the sax. All
kidding aside, thanks for listening this week. This episode, the title, if you didn't see it, is Super Sigh-Again for Dragon Ball Daima.
4 Dragon Ball.
Yep.
Good times. Good
So
times.
Super Sigh-Again 4, Super Sigh-Again 4.
I like that.
Yeah. It's sort of
Nice play on words.
of touch or whatever I said earlier. I can't.
Oh yeah, in the touch.
In the touch. Up to touch.
Up to touch.
I'm up to touch. That's what she says.
That's the new lingo. 2025.
Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Dave's House of Wax.
Yeah. Madam Tussauds.
Madam Too Much. Anyway, we will be back next week with a discussion of 2025 and what it's offered in music.
Yeah.
And fun.
Some fun.
Some fun.
And some deepness, too. I think some deepness will come out of that combo.
Catch you next time. Until then, keep sliding.
Slide on out.